Okay, the time is 3 o'clock, and I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to declare quorum. Go ahead and call.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Chairman Sol,
Here.
Commissioner Garza,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Klein,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
and Vice Chair London.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes that need to be done to the agenda, staff, commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Motion by
Second.
Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Moore. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? Hearing none, we continue on. Next item is the approval of the minutes from December 8th, 2021. Are there any edits or changes that need to happen to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So move. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Klein, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item is under new business. Under item A, we have an approval of a zone change from residential single-family district to residential multifamily district. Said zone change to include Block 13, Unit 2 of Wicker Addition in Clovis, New Mexico. Address of the zone change is 3112 Thornton. Staff, do you want to brief us on this?
Chairman, thank you. Commissioners, the request for approval of the rezoning of a section within Wicker Addition Unit 2 from residential single-family to residential multifamily meets the requirements of Chapter 17 of the city's Unified Development Ordinance and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. There is no compelling evidence that there would be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the proposed rezoning were notified, and there is 0% written protest filed. Just for the record, I have had a couple calls on this one in protest the last couple days.
Would the applicant happen to be in the audience? Okay. If you would go ahead and come up. We'll probably have some questions for you. Now I'll need you to state your name and your address, and then I'll swear you in, okay?
My name is Gerald Grego. My address is 908 Genie Drive here in Clovis.
Okay. And if you'll raise your right hand for me. Do you swear and affirm that everything you will say today will be truthful?
I do.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, what's the plan for this area?
It's to develop it and put 7 lots and then to build duplexes on each lot. So there'll be a total of 14 units. The average size of each apartment would be 1,200 feet with garages on each apartment. There'll be brick exterior and solid surface interiors, just the standard construction. They'll have a metal fence around them. There will be a considerable amount of xeriscaping and driveways. And the road access in it from Thornton will be bordered by curb and gutter, and it'll be an asphalt road coming in.
And that's coming in from Thornton, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
On the agreement with the church, they're giving us easement to access that in the back. So we'll be allowed to build a road to that property.
Okay. Is that gonna be on the, if you're looking at this, the bottom side of that parking lot? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
Would you like to speak, Mr. Leidig?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
Chad Leidig, consulting engineer here in town, and I've worked with Mr. Grego on this, and I'd be glad to
Yes,
discuss
okay.
it some.
Do you swear and affirm everything you will say today will be true?
I do.
Truthful. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you folks have a copy of this proposed sketch?
I don't think we have a large copy.
We don't have a large one like that, but we do have it on our package.
Oh, you do have one in your packet? What Mr. Grego was saying, I might just run through it real quick. This sits to the west of the Westminster Presbyterian Church, and what we would do is dedicate a 60-foot width right-of-way, a normal width municipal street that would extend from Thornton Street into this particular area. And then, as you can see, we would construct a street within the development to city standards, and it would be dedicated as well to the public. So these would function just like normal residential units around a publicly dedicated roadway. And then the utilities would be extended to service each lot. We would dedicate, as you can see, an alleyway on the west and on the east sides. There's existing alleys on the south and north, and those utilities would be extended through those alleyways to provide service to all the units. And so this would function just as a normal residential subdivision that you would see in any other area in town. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
No, I have a question for staff. Mr. Chairman, we have a list of names. Is this pertaining to this, for a reason?
I just
or-
wanted to include that from past meetings. I wanted to clarify who all was, that's just the label list of who all was notified, is all that is.
This is okay, the people that were notified. When you say you got 2 calls that were opposing this, are they within the?
One was
proposed?
outside, one was within.
Okay.
The main concern from the one within is if they were gonna be 2-story duplexes, and that was their main
That was the
concern.
only concern, okay. Question for our city attorney. Will that one complaint make a difference, or how we vote, or?
No, thank you, Commissioner. So it only makes a difference if there's I believe it's a 20% protest at the city commission level. Then it requires a 2/3 majority vote, but for purposes of this meeting, it makes no difference.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any other
Excuse
question?
me.
Did you have a question? Any other questions? All right.
One more thing. They will be single-level duplexes, not multi-level, so,
All right. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
All right. Well,
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
motion from Commissioner Garza, second from Commissioner Moore. Should we have roll call, please?
Chairman Sol,
Yes.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of a zone change from residential single-family district to residential multifamily district. The said zone change to include lots 10 to 17, Block 5, Unit 2, Spanish Scope Subdivision. Address of the zone change is 2337-2365 Marlene Boulevard. Staff, will you go ahead and brief us on this applicant?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The request for approval of the rezoning of lots 10 through 7, Block 5, Unit 2 of the Spanish Cove Subdivision from residential single-family to residential multifamily meets the requirements of Chapter 17 of the city's Unified Development Ordinance and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. There is no compelling evidence that there would be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the proposed rezoning were notified, and there are 0% protests filed.
Okay. Is the applicant in the audience? Again? Does any of the commissioners have any questions?
I do. Is this going to be duplexes also?
Yes, it will be duplexes.
Same as the other ones?
Actually, these will be as close to identical as the existing property that
Right.
is built there. So they'll
To
be
match that.
stucco and
Okay.
clay tile roofs and stuff, so.
That's good.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I'm thinking that's all the questions. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Moore, second by Commissioner Klein. Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Chairman Sol.
Yes. Okay. Next action item on the agenda is the approval of a preliminary plat of the Morningstars subdivision. And I believe that is in our packet. So will staff go ahead and brief us on this?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The request for approval of the Morningstars subdivision meets the standards of Chapter 17.65, Sections 1765.70 of the Apex and Appendix A of the city's Unified Development Ordinance, and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the affected area were notified, with 0 responding in protest. There is no compelling evidence that there would be a threat to public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request.
Okay, is the applicant in the audience? Mr. Leidig, yes.
Mr. Chairman, you may want to swear in here in a minute. The church does have a representative in the audience as well that may choose to speak.
Excellent.
I know you've probably got a picture of this subdivision in your packet. Does anybody need a bigger one to look at? Or are you okay? Okay. Let me just run through this quickly. This particular area, this whole part of this quarter section was once all a part of what they call the North Glen subdivision. And it was platted many years ago, master platted, and then it was broken apart and various owners bought parcels of that, and it has slowly developed owner by owner since that time. As an example, we have the Glen Oaks addition down below, and we have the Gateway addition. Well, all of those were a part, and it's, in fact, the church tract as well, all were a part of the North Glen subdivision. So this is kind of the remaining parcel of that once large development. And this land is owned by Legacy Church, which has their main facility there at the corner of Llano Estacado and North Street. And they are proposing to open this up as a total single-family residential subdivision, which you can see we have it plotted before you. All of the lots are in compliance with the standards for this particular zone. We have adequate fall across the subdivision to provide for good gradient for drainage as well as sanitary sewer flow. We have existing sewer lines on 3 of the sides of this subdivision, and in Llano Estacado we have a main trunk line sewer that branches off into this area and has adequate capacity to handle this area. The other utilities are also in place in this area and can be extended through these alleyways to provide service to each individual tract. The only things that might be a little bit unique with this is if you'll notice at the southwest corner and the southeast corner of this proposed subdivision, I have retention basin A and retention basin B. And those will be they will be sized, fenced, and excavated with a capacity to contain the projected runoff from this subdivision once it's fully developed. In addition to those basins, we will also be requiring, and we've been doing it on a lot of residential developments in this area, to where we construct the rear fences for each individual lot with a concrete footing that extends above the ground about 6 inches. And what that does is it makes every rear yard of every residential lot act as its own retention basin, which keeps a lot of the runoff from ever getting to the streets. So by combining those two methods, we feel like that we can pretty well have about 100% capture of the on-site generated stormwater. In visiting with the city engineer, he had a great idea, and we would propose to do this as well. As once we construct the basins, we would put in an overflow area if the basin ever overflowed, and we would, if you'll look on your drawing there, we would outlet that into the alleyway, and we would concrete a channel in the middle of the alleyway that would take runoff, should it ever occur, over to North Glen Drive and away from the subdivision. So that's just another safety valve for storm runoff that we can do. On the southwest corner, since I submitted this plat to the city, I wanted to state there may be a change. Immediately to the west of where I've got that retention area is a very large, in place, already dug, large retention basin that church property is using for all of that tract. And it looks like we'll have adequate capacity. I'll do some studies on it, But we may go ahead and remove that retention basin A, put 2 lots in there, and I'll put a drop inlet there in the street and take that storm runoff over to that existing basin that's existing there to the west. That's the only proposed change that may occur, and I'll work with city staff and with the city engineer once we complete the study on that. So it'll be one or the other, but we will have a retention basin in that other area, whether it be off-site or on-site.
And that'll be that, if you do that and you separate those two into 2 lots, that would mean right by Unit 9 right there, that's where that water's gonna run off into that other side, that's what you're saying?
It would go straight west across the alleyway. There's a large basin that's existing there now.
Right, but between Lot 9 and that, and where the basin is now, right, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we've got everything handled. I expect this to be a very popular area of development for the city. It has been to date. As you know, this land has not been open for development previously. There is one existing development out there I'm sure you'll recognize on the easterly end of this subdivision is that concrete dome structure that used to be a church, and the church will be removing all of that, and that land will be incorporated into this subdivision. Be glad to answer any questions. And like I said, Mr. David Armstrong from the church is also available to answer any questions you may have.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, you need to come to the podium. Give us your name and address for the record, please. And you need to be sworn in.
Brent Parrish, 1016 Chase Meadow Lane.
All right, if you raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that your statements today will be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Go on ahead.
Over, I live at, where,
Chief Manager's down here.
oh, it's upside down, okay. My house is the second house in from the alley.
Can you get close to the microphone? Thank you,
My
sir.
house is second in from the alley. Where's that retention pond gonna be?
Would it be, are you right here, I bet? Are you just, you said you're second in from the alley,
Yeah,
so are you
this-
from this one? So you're in either lot 21 or 20?
Yeah, and I don't know which lot I'm in. to
Okay,
be
well, this
honest.
basin would be behind you, north of you. Like if you're one of these 2 lots, you know, right in here, that's where that.
Yeah, this is, I'm gonna be 20, I'm pretty sure. This would be 1016, right? Is that 1016 right
I
there?
don't have the address.
Okay. So it's gonna be right directly behind this house. So,
And what we would do, if there's an overflow channel, we'd bring it out here at this corner and down this alley to the street here.
okay,
And we'll fence the rear of this and the sides of this, so there'll be no runoff that will enter your lot.
okay, okay. Well, I'd like to speak when y'all are finished with him, if that's okay.
Sure.
Oh, you may go ahead.
Any more for me?
Any more questions for Mr. Leidick?
So you're talking about everything is going to be fence, you're going to have a fence around the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, it'll have that same, concrete base I was telling you about. Now, whether they go block or wood or vinyl, above that, that'll be up to the covenants that they develop. And the city didn't enforce covenants anyway, but on this basin, we will again still have that concrete, like I said, head wall around it, so it keeps all the runoff on that site and it'll exit where we want it to exit.
Okay.
Any other questions?
There's a large prairie dog community in that whole area.
There's a what, I'm
A
sorry?
large prairie dog community in that area. Is there any plan?
They
with the
seem to
prairie dogs?
relocate once we start construction. And, yeah,
Into
I'll
people's
leave it at
backyards?
that.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Leidick? I think that's it, sir. You're free, at least for now. Sir, did you say you wanted to say some things after Mr. Leidick? Go on ahead.
I was told by David Swan when we bought that house in 2005 that there would never be any houses back there, and that's why I bought that house. And I don't think it's fair that, you know, I was told that, and then now there's gonna be houses there. Cause I need to get into my yard, and if there's houses behind me, I can't get into my yard from the alley. I back a big barbecue smoker in there, and I won't be able to get it in there. And it's just not, you know, like I said, I was told there would never be any houses back there by him. I don't know if he still has anything to do with this or not, but, you know, a man's word ought to be worth something.
Well, Mr. Swan is no longer here, so there's no way we can bring him back and ask him why he said what he said.
Okay.
But I don't see really a big problem on our part because it's his word.
Well, I understand that,
Yes.
and I just wanted to get that out there. And
Right, and I'm sure these people will do something that is right and will take care of that issue. But don't take my word for it.
well, how is this going to affect our sewer? And I know he's touched on it, but our water pressure and all of that sort of
Well,
thing.
staff look at the proposal and they will work on that also, so I'm sure it will be done properly.
I think, go on ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As far as water pressure, I mean, that's obviously in EPCOR's hands. They're the owner and operator of our local water utility company. And that area has plenty of pressure. Obviously, the Llano storage tank is located just to the west of this area. But the northern, we don't have any pressure issues that EPCOR has ever brought to our attention from the city of Clovis' standpoint. In sewer, as Mr. Leidig mentioned, there's plenty of capacity. We have a large 18-inch trunk line that runs down the center of Llano Estacado Boulevard. And so we have plenty of sewer capacity in that area as well.
Okay. My other question is, do y'all plan on doing anything about the street, Llano, as a street being so narrow and rough and nearly impassable as it is now, and now we're gonna add more traffic to it?
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is one of our requirements for land development is that the developer will have to look at the traffic impact that their development is going to create on that roadway. There wouldn't be required to make roadway improvements as far as widening the roadway, but if they are required and trip certain levels, they would have to put in potentially a right turn bay to access that, or potentially put in a left turn bay. It just depends on how much traffic is proposed to be generated. The city of Clovis, and working through our Public Works committee, is taking a look at our roadway prioritization, and that's a list that the Public Works Committee assembles of which roadways are major priorities for the city to try and upgrade. And that one has definitely been brought to the attention of the Public Works Committee. And once we redo that list, we'll get that to the City Commission for final approval. And then as we seek funding to make roadway improvements, depending on where it is on that list, that's when we would address those. We actually have already done drainage improvements or drainage plans for that roadway. So we're working and looking for funding. That's about a $4 million project just to put drainage improvements going down that roadway that we're currently trying to find funding for. So it's on the radar. We just don't have plans and don't have funding identified to try and widen that roadway out yet.
Well, I'm just concerned because, you know, Eddie and Paul are building all those houses. They're gonna build 170 houses across Llano. And here, how many houses are going here, Chad? Okay.
It's approximately 55 lots.
okay.
Is what we're getting at. But and yes, and so even with the proposed development going to the north of Llano, that's something that particular developer is having to work on from a traffic impact analysis as well.
Okay. And what about the size and I don't know if that is covenants or what are the sizes of these houses gonna be? Are they gonna be as nice $300,000 houses like we got now? Or are they gonna be little, you know, $1,600, $2,000 or $200,000 houses?
That's 100% up to the developer. The city of Clovis does not dictate that.
Make a quick statement on that now. All these lots that you see are above the minimum for this particular single-family zone. And so the covenants will address whether they be all brick or they be whatever building material and what the square footage will be. And those have not been submitted yet by the church, but it's really not a part of this discussion because the city doesn't enforce or regulate covenants. So, you know, what we do here is make sure we got all the utilities and drainage and roads and traffic and all that stuff. But the size of the house, it'll meet the, you know, the standards of the area. It's the best I can tell you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Sounds like the engineering is pretty sound. Are there any other questions?
We do have a representative from Legacy Church.
Did you want to
correct?
speak, sir?
Want to Speak?
Okay, if you give your name and address.
My name is David Armstrong. I live at 865 Loma Pinon Loop in
If
Rio
you
Rancho.
raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that everything you'll say today will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you. Did you want him to summarize his
yeah.
project? Yes, if you
Just,
can give us.
yeah, just a quick summary of,
Well,
from the church's point of view.
I'm a part of Legacy Church in Albuquerque. I was raised in Portales and moved in 2000. And I actually served on planning and zoning there for 7 years. So when this transitioned to Legacy Church from Faith Christian, the question of that land, what it was there for, and all that we discussed with other people that had been at Faith Christian for years. And so the church asked me to kind of take the head on this and try to get this thing going on this subdivision. And to answer the gentleman's question, we've not yet got to covenants, but we have talked about maybe 2,000 square feet being a minimum on the size of the home. And the purpose of this is when we took over the church, there were some financial issues that we're trying to clear up. And so the sale of this property would go to better that community here. And then they've got a new building in Portales also. So, other than that,
Okay, thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
Any other questions for him? No? All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything more regarding this? All right.
Did anybody else want to speak on this? There's,
It's open mic night. Okay. All right. Well, hearing nothing, I guess we will go ahead and entertain a motion.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Klein,
second.
second by Commissioner Smith. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Garza,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
and Chairman Soul.
Yes. All right. Next item is the approval of a preliminary plat of the VJ Hain or Jane? Hain subdivision. I'm just gonna say it like that. I'm sorry. Hun? Okay, VJ Hun subdivision. Staff, will you brief us on that?
Absolutely. The request for approval of the VJ Hun subdivision meets the standards of Chapter 17, Section 65.070, and Appendix A of the city's Unified Development Ordinance, and is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. All adjoining property owners within 100 feet of the affected area were notified, with 0 responding in protest. There is no compelling evidence that there would be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which is unique to the proposed request.
All right. And do we have the applicant in the audience or someone to speak on behalf of this? Mr. Leidick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
This tract is a 8.5 acre tract approximately that's located at the southwest corner of the West 21st Street and the Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard intersection. And what this is truly what he proposes to do would be a mixed usage development in that he is proposing some commercial usage tracts that would front on both 21st Street and Martin Luther King Boulevard. And then the larger tract that you see is Lot 3 towards the southwest corner. He's hoping to propose for some multifamily housing in that area. I do not have any development plans at this time as far as what that particular development would look like, nor do I have what the commercial developments would look like, but I know he's been actively working in those areas. And working with the city staff, this area is unique and that it does have, it fronts on 2 major arterials that we have in the city. And as such, the one singular street that you see that would go through this subdivision will have a right-in, right-out access onto those arterial roadways. These roadways are located an adequate distance away from the main intersection, but we felt like that if we restricted the in and out on that even further, it would be safer. And so we will be proposing to do that. We do have a trunk sewer line, trunk water line, high-capacity utilities located within the rights-of-way of these two arterials that will be able to be extended to provide adequate capacity on whatever development may occur in this area. The only potential engineering thing that we'll have to, come up with that we'll work with city staff on, as you can see, the one or the one entryway or the individual lot entryways, even on the east side as they come into Martin Luther King, we do have the Worthington ditch existing at that location, and so it will require a bridge structure to go across that. That structure has not been engineered at this time, but Mr. Howalt and I agree that we will be working with the Moles and Corbin engineering group that is currently preparing the final plans for the upgrade of the MLK roadway, as well as the Worthington ditch. So whatever we do, we're going to coordinate with them on what capacity they'd like to see those barrels and how we could do that. So, but as a part of today's hearing, we're just asking for preliminary approval of the development plan that you see before you, and then the engineering part of it we'll work out with staff. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions?
No, I think it's a good idea to have engineering firm deal with this. Make sure that everything is done right and move for approval.
Motion from Commissioner Garza, second from Commissioner Klein. Roll call, please.
Well, I jumped
Commissioner
the gun
Smith?
there, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Chairman Soul?
Yes.
And Commissioner Garza.
Yes.
All right. With there being no other items on the agenda, staff, is there anything else that we should be notified of?
And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and members of the audience, I just remind everybody that the final approval of these would go to the City Commission, which will be at our January 20th City Commission meeting in this room at 5:15.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Anything else? No? Okay. Well then, meeting adjourned. Thank you.